Hey everybody, what's up? I'm DJ Sixsmith. You're watching The Sit Down. Infamy, When Fame Turns Deadly, coming to VH1. Monica's going to be hosting. She's hanging out with us here. Got a Grammy Award winner on the show. What's going on? How are you?
I'm doing so well. How are you doing?
I'm great. So true crime fans are going to be all over this. It looks fascinating for a number of different reasons. What was it like being a part of it?
Listen, I was excited. I am a true crime fan myself. From a very young girl, I would look at everything from Unsolved Mysteries to America's Most Wanted to now First 48 Snapped. Infamy, it's parallel to those shows in some respects. But what I really love about Infamy, to be honest with you, is the fact that it gives the victims a bit of a voice. We take you inside of who they really were, not just what sport they played or what their livelihood was, but we take you where they're from. We let you see the people that they loved most. And one thing that I also love is that we actually speak to those that are mourning the loss of these incredible people. There's 8 episodes. So each of the 8 of them have parents, some have children, some have loved ones that had theories on what took place. We actually speak to all of them. So Infamy is a very special show.
I mean, I think so much of that gets lost in the narratives, right? We focus on one thing, right?
Absolutely.
It's Lorenzen, right? He's a basketball player. And then that's
Absolutely.
where the story goes, right? We don't think about the parents and the loved ones and other parts of that story. So what was most surprising just about the whole experience when you put it in perspective?
I think one of the most surprising was that there can be so much hatred towards you coming from someone you don't even know. There are certain cases where it was robberies gone wrong. That level of pain that's been inflicted upon their kids and their moms and their sisters and brothers. And then the flip side of that, that's also shocking, is we could actually be married and in love at one point, and then you take my life. That's something that I just can't fathom. It's hard to digest some of these stories, but I do appreciate the fact that Infamy allowed me to really speak to their legacies and who they were in a respectful manner and still tell the story at the same time.
Do you feel like people will come away with more answers than questions after watching, or more questions than answers?
We definitely answer most questions. That was a goal of both mine and all of the Infamy staff and VH1 staff. We didn't want you to watch an episode and feel like you have been left hanging from a cliff. We wanted you to feel like now you know them better. Now you understand what happened. Even if it was something very tragic, you now get it. Because a lot of times when the news reports it, they just report what happened, nothing else. And there's no follow-up. So we don't leave questions unanswered on Infamy.
So it's one thing when somebody dies mysteriously, there's questions around a death. It's a different layer when somebody's famous, right? Or they're involved with other famous people. How do you think that factors in just to the level of fascination with this kind of true crime here?
Partly because some of these stories you will have heard some about some of them. You will have heard some things, and you'll also find out that some of the things you heard have no truth. The truth is within the show because we made sure we had facts. If it wasn't factual or it was thought to be or it was a conspiracy theory, we state that very clearly, and then we tell you what the evidence said and what was found and what police felt. So we give you a more broad spectrum of what really transpired on some of these really tragic nights.
You've done a lot of different great things in your career, and you've been doing this thing for a minute now, all the way back when you were a young girl. What has been the key for you in terms of sustaining this success all these years?
Honestly, for me, transparency, authenticity, and relatability. Those are 3 of the most important things for me. I realize that I'm no different than you. I'm no different than the person next door. I'm no different than anyone else just going through their lives, experiencing things and learning things and trying to figure out what your purpose is, throughout the journey of life. And that keeps me connected. My music is about what I experience. So anyone that is experiencing anything similar, then that connects us all over again. I never want to lose those 3 things ever.
That's really beautifully said. What do you remember about how things first started for you when when your music first starts to resonate and first starts to connect? What's still some of the purest memories you have there?
Me hearing just one of them days on the radio in the 9th grade in auto mechanics, like, bye y'all, I'm going to work. I knew it. I was like, I'm going to work. It was always in my spirit. And my goal was never, it wasn't fame or money. Singing really soothed my soul. As I would be going through things, even as a young girl, I sang. And I watched my daughter do the exact same thing. Sometimes I'll ask her, I say, well, what song is that? She said, I don't know. I'm creating it. You know, and that's a beautiful thing to see, because all of my family sang, but none of them really pursued a music career. So I went from singing in talent shows to being signed to Rowdy Records / Arista, to sitting here 25 years later, just grateful for that kind of longevity and being able to do something that I actually really love doing.
You mentioned your daughter before. When did she first start to exhibit the musical behavior there?
About 3 years old. Yeah, about 3 years old. And my first solo was when I was 2. It was in my mom's church choir. And my oldest son that just actually turned 16, he produces and plays instruments by ear. He started playing the drums and piano at 3.5, 4 years old. And my middle son is like, y'all can do music, enjoy, show me to the sports. He literally plays every sport you can think of. Futsal, I had never even heard of till he started playing. So, you know, I have 3 totally different types of children, but it was good for me to go through what I went through, because it assists me in helping them to reach their goals.
No question. I mean, that's just incredible with all your different kids. And you mentioned how young you were when you started and still doing your thing. What would you say have been some of the biggest challenges you've overcome, really from that part where things pop and it's like, what's the next thing? How do I sustain this going forward? What were some of the challenges there?
Well, the challenges is we're always being told that you can't stop. I never believed it. As you see, when I gave birth for the second time, I took about 4 years off. And I remember being told by an executive back in the day that, you know, women with kids, they don't really have hit records anymore. And nothing could have been further from the truth. If you look at my career, the makings of me, my son is in the booklet. You know, it's like you'll always be told what you can't do, but knowing within yourself that anything is possible is important. And that's something that my mom really equipped us with as kids. And I needed it, because this is a business that will say no time and time again. So that was one of the biggest hurdles, being told that if I decided to start a family, that would mean no more big successes were possible.
Well, that's some great parenting right there. I really like hearing about that. When people check out Infamy, there's going to be a lot going on. What do you hope people walk away thinking once they check out all the episodes?
I hope they're captivated by the way that we put each episode together. I pray that on Monday nights at 10 p.m., if you're sitting there and you're watching VH1, you don't want to be looking at anything else. And also, I pray that the families feel good about their loved ones' stories being told. That's why it was so important to involve them. To me, there is no story without the families, you know, and they are the ones that are still suffering from those losses. So I think we covered those bases really well. We've made sure they've seen it. And now as we start to share it with you guys on Monday nights, I hope that you have that connection to the show and everything that it is.
Well, Monica, thanks for doing the work. Really nice to meet you. And we'll talk to you down the road, all right?
Yes, nice to meet you too. And you guys, make sure you follow me at Monica Denise, because I'm going to update you on my new album, Trenches. It is coming soon, as well as my TV / radio show with Apple Music called Mo Talk.